Hello, welcome to Playing God, the Art of Gaming.
Or, as I'd like to call it, the game of arting, but that's not grammatically correct.
I'm Tori.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is where we teach you, the viewers, how to draw some of our favorite video game characters. This week, I'll be drawing Mario, the Super Mario Galaxy version.
We'll be switching back and forth each week, unless one of us kills over and is entirely unable, so next week I'll be drawing.
I'll be talking about my process, and you guys get some footage of me drawing Mario from sketch to final product. It'll be fun! Anyways, here we go! Alright, I guess we'll start with the first thing I do is I sketch out the drawing. So I use just a regular number 2 pencil and just a crappy sketchbook, as you guys can probably see. So I usually start with the head, and I'll use some kind of a reference. Right now I pulled one up on my PC. I just have a random picture of Mario that I found on Google. So for Mario, it's easy. You just use a lot of circles. You draw a circle for his head, for his nose. His body's pretty circular. The only things that are not really circles are like his legs, and that's really his arms, and that's really about it. Those are more like cylinders than anything, but you just draw like 2 lines for the legs and the arms and it should be okay. So Mario's a really circular character, and it makes him pretty easy to draw. Circular characters usually symbolize that they're friendly in character design. So from that, you just fill in the details of the character, and that's what you do to get the first sketch. Step 2 is line art. Here we can see that I brought my sketch onto the computer. I have a tablet. It's a pretty small tablet. It's a bamboo, like one of the cheapest ones out there. So, I mean, the materials I use, nothing super special. In order to get my sketch on the PC, I usually have a super simple process. Basically, literally, all I do is I take my iPhone, I take a picture of the sketch, I don't even bother to scan it, I don't do anything special, I email it to myself, and then I drop it onto my computer, and I pull it into Sci, and then I just take a small line art brush on a high stabilizer, and the program I use is Paint Tool Sci, and I line everything with the stabilizer. Usually my sketch is pretty complete as far as the lines I need, so I'm not adding random lines in. Sometimes I have to go in and like fix something, like here you'll see that I had to move Mario's leg because it was too long after I finished the sketch. It looked like he had super long leg, so I just fixed that by using a lasso, and I just moved it and I fixed the line art and called it good, and that's really all I do for lines. There's nothing super special about it. You just go over what you sketched. So step 3 when I draw is the flat colors. I always put down the flat colors before I start shading so that I have everything laid out and I know exactly what color goes where. Because I do my line arts to be super smooth, I can take the magic wand tool and select each area where the color belongs, and I just take my reference picture that I was using of Mario and grab color samples from each piece of him so that all the colors that I'm using are basically accurate to what they need to be. It's super lazy, super easy. I just take the magic wand tool and I fill in each layer of color with the color that's for that character's skin tone and whatnot. Another thing that's really important to remember is that there's no such thing as pure black and pure white. So you'll have to choose, like for Mario's gloves and the whites of his eyes and his teeth, I chose for his flat color a little bit darker color than white. It's like a bluish color instead of a pure white, so that when I'm doing the shading, I can take the white and I could add it as highlights instead, so it looks like it has color there. So I'll just plop the colors in using the paint bucket tool after I have it selected, and that's really all I do for flat colors. If there is stuff missing or the select tool is like too close together, I'll take the brush tool and I'll just fill in whatever's missing, and that's all there is to it with flat colors. Alright, so step 4 is shading. Shading is probably the most complicated part. It's also my favorite part. I love shading. So when you're shading, it's important to pick out a light source and also the color of your light. In this particular picture, I picked out a cyan color for my light source. When you're shading, the color of your light determines the color of the shadows you're gonna have. The type of shadows you have, well, if you have a blue light, the shadows are gonna have a reddish tint, and if you have a red light, then the shadows are gonna have a bluish tint. The light source in this particular image is chosen to be cyan. All the shadows are gonna end up being a little bit of a red or a purple. I add the purple in there to give it more body and more color to it. Creates more color harmony, which is just saying that the colors are more related. Basically, that's really all you need to know. You need to make sure that you're paying attention where your light source is, so that the shadows are going to be falling away towards the back. Make sure that things look rounded, because shadows, they tend to follow the curvature of the item. So that's really all there is to it as far as shading goes, and then you just kind of have fun with it. Pick lots and lots of different colors within the palette that you're using, which is, in this case, Mario has lots of reds and blues and browns, and all the shadows are going to be some variation of red, regardless of what color Mario is. And it tends to look pretty good when you're done with it, so have fun with it. last part when I'm drawing an image is the background. For this particular image, I chose to do something really simple. So for this picture of Mario, the background is literally, I went into Photoshop, obviously. It took it a second to open up in Photoshop. I have Photoshop CC, not that it really matters, you can do this in just about any kind of Photoshop. You can do it in Photoshop CS5, CS4, CS3, I have CC. But what I did is I took my picture of Mario into Photoshop and I got a very large circular brush, I painted a few large circles in the background, and I just kind of had it spot out so that it's kind of like dotty and it has kind of a graphic designy feel, and it's really kind of, I don't know, it pulls the image together. And I got rid of the initial color that I put down in the background just to make sure that there wasn't any like faux pas in my flats. And then I created a few layers ahead of that in a clipping group, which is the same thing that you can do in Psy. And I just took a very large brush, I lowered the opacity some, and I lowered the hardness down to 0%. And I just took variations of the background color of a darker variety and a lighter variety, and I spotted them around the image, making the ones that are closer to the color of the light source towards where the light source was originally marked, and the darker ones towards the bottom of the image. And then I just took a very small brush in white and I dotted it randomly around the page to make it look kind of like stars, so it kind of looks like it's Mario Galaxy. Really, that's all there is to say about drawing Mario. That's how I drew Mario, and until next time, this has been Tori. Next week, we'll take you full force with Steph, and have a good rest of your day, or night, or whenever you're watching this. I don't judge.